Bonnie here from Ballerinas by Night. Today I want to do just a quick little technique video talking about what I like to call our hyperdimensional floor. What this is about is how we use our feet, especially in our bar work, but of course our bar work is carried into all our work later on in the center. What I call the hyperdimensional floor is to really help us use the floor properly and also lift through the body, starting with things like our tendus. So if we're imagining that we're standing on the floor, our hyperdimensional floor, we can magically go under as we take our tendus and then come to the top of the floor. So one of the mistakes I see very often in tendus is the student takes their foot out, they kind of skim the floor and then they come up, not that much. They come up and then they point to the floor. That's not really using the floor to build our muscles. So by thinking about a hyperdimensional floor and thinking about actually going under the floor, so we start, we go under the floor, out, 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 and then when we end, we're just now on top of the floor. And then we go under the floor and up, 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 and back. So under the floor, just to the top of it, under the floor and back. Under the floor, just to the top of it, under the floor, back. Under the floor, out, under the floor, back. And this carries into everything else we do. We start doing our dégagés, under and out, under and back. Under and out, under and back. Grand battement, same thing. Under and out, under and back. To go along with this, I want to just remind you that our foot, standing on our foot, should be like standing on a tripod. So we want to have 3 points. 1, 2, 3. And we hear teachers say a lot of times lift out of the heels, because the idea is that if we get weight back into the heels, then we get this. Our hips are taken back, and we want our hips to be over more of the balls of our feet. But what you have to be careful with that is that you don't think out of your heels so much that then they're not connected, because that can make you grip the toes, because the lack of connection with the heels makes you have to get something to stabilize you, so the toes grip, so that then you can be like, okay, I'm working, I'm trying to hold myself. The other thing you really need to remember is your supporting side has to continue to wrap. Anytime you're taking something out, this has to be wrapping around, wrapping around. So it's like there's 2 circles going this way. I'm circling out with the hips. One of the most common things I see when I see dancers doing bar work, and I've dealt with this so I understand it, is we want to go like this. And again, I'm exaggerating, but even just subtly, you let that go, and then it feels easier, it feels like you can get more turnout, whatever it is, but you're not utilizing the correct muscles to then carry that into when you have to have extensions later and to be on demi-point. That's why sometimes dancers that you see that you feel like they look really, really good, they take a picture of an extension and their foot immediately goes there, back, because they're not really training their legs to wrap around from the hips. That's where the turnout comes from. And this is why, in general, I'm very conservative about pushing my students with their turnout, because this is where it has to come from, and this is where I want to see it more than I want to see just feet from the knees and the ankles. So if it's not here, if it's not fully from the hips, if this isn't wrapping, then again, the minute you get on demi-point or try and take a pose, it's going to be there. And even if you've done all of your bar work with perfect 180-degree feet, it's going to be gone immediately. So hyperdimensional floor, under and to it, under and back. Now this under and back, this is really important, because this is what I'm talking about. This is relating to utilizing the wrapping of the hips. You push down. Now when you come back to, whether it's your first or your fifth or whatever, you want to lift up. So through the whole body, you have a down and out, under and up so that you're actually lifting and wrapping around as you close. And this will, even if you start moving really fast, it should help you get away from the I let it go, I let it go, I let it go more and more and more as you keep going. Should be like I'm lifting, I'm lifting, I'm lifting, I'm lifting. Another thing, right? So hyperdimensional floor, under the floor and out. If you will think of all your bar work, don't think about the working leg. Don't think about the working leg turning out. I mean, think about where it's going, but think about what your supporting leg is doing and completely ignore the working leg for a while. Because if you can get this wrapping of the hip and your turnout strong in the lift on your supporting side, this leg is going to be freer to do any of your other work. And I think without having to think too much of the turnout on this leg, it will improve if your supporting leg is where it should be. Certainly you need to get this where it should be, and then you can worry about getting more turnout on this one. But if that's something you've been struggling with, I think you will find it all coming together much more quickly if this is really strong and set. This is again why in my classes a lot of times I don't like to give super tricky mental combinations, because I just want my students to really think about all of this technique and get really, really strong in that. So if you're working at home, just take very simple things. Tendus, 4 en croix. Dégagés, 4 en croix. Really, really, really try and remember supporting leg, hyperdimensional floor, lifting as you close. And I think that will, in a very, very short time, help you to feel much more improved. Thanks, that's all I have for today. Bye!